Hi, you're watching The Future is Female, the show where we find the extraordinary in every woman. I'm Melisa Idris, and today on the show I have Tan Sri Zainun Ali, who last year retired as a federal court judge after 22 years on the bench. Thank you so much for joining me on the show today. It's really a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Melisa.
Okay, so I really want to kind of rewind and then go back to what it was like for you. I mean, how did it start for you, Tan Sri, in terms of, you know, that the beginning of your career? It must have been a completely different time for Malaysia 22 years ago. What was it like at the start of your career?
At the start, right, when I graduated from law school, from university, from this school, we thought that it would be best that my friends and I thought we look around and see whether we can do something useful or important. And suddenly we found that there is this law faculty that's newly formed in Malaysia, and whether by design or providence, we wanted to be there, you know, and we applied to be there, and luckily we got in. It was not an easy entry because there's so many people entering who were going for it, and I think about 1,000 people applied for it, but only 50 were included.
Wow.
Yes, so we were lucky, and I was happy to be in it. And actually, I wasn't sure whether I really want to do law or read law, really. But once you're in it, you are immersed in it. It grows on you, sort of. And I really enjoyed my time there. It was fun, really. And during those days, in the early 70s, you know.
So you were appointed as Judicial Commissioner in 1996 and then appointed as High Court Judge in 1998. What were those years like? I mean, you worked your way up, all the way up to the Apex Court, after which you retired.
Right.
I guess the evolution of that career, is that a path that you saw a lot of women take before you?
No. I mean, well, in the sense that when I was in the High Court, there weren't many women. And the only woman in the top position then was Tan Sri Zainun Ali. But over the years, more women joined me on the bench in the High Court as well as in the Court of Appeal. And I think it was only in the year 2000 onwards that people like when we had Chief Justices like Tun Zaki, Tun Arifin, who appointed, and Tun Raus appointed more women on the bench.
Okay, so you started to see more
people, yes. And I think
judges.
For women, yes.
Okay. One thing about the lives of judges, you know, it's often kept private and discreet and very out of the public eye.
Right.
I guess I'm wondering why that is, and if you could kind of share with us what, you know, some insights into what it is like to be in a life, you know, a day in a life of a judge.
Well, okay, it depends. Okay, when we are appointed as judges, we are very mindful of the fact that there is this oath of office which you have to adhere to.
Oath of office.
Oath of office, and also we are bound by our code of ethics, judicial code of ethics, where we have to be circumspect in whatever we do, on or off the bench. So then it's not an easy place to be in, but I think once we get into the rhythm of things go swing along, and we are all right with it. Well, it's a lot of work.
You shared something with me before the interview. You said that judges have to live consciously and cautiously. Yes, which I thought was really wonderful.
Yes.
So, and that's part of being aware that you have to uphold the sanctity of the profession. Right. Okay. Right. So, talk to me about what you know it's like to live in your shoes as when you were federal court judge.
Yes. Well, it will start with being a high court on the high court bench.
Okay.
Because when you are sitting alone on the high court bench, then you are really flung into the hurly-burly of life. You are handling witnesses every day of your life, and you know, and you have to be always be conscious of the fact that here is this witness who's telling you a story. You have to be mindful of what he says and keep notes of what he says, and at the end of the day, you have to go back and think whether or not which side has to be.
So you take it back
right.
with you?
Yeah, of
You
course.
take it back with you?
All judges, I think, unless they're lying, will have to take their work home.
Okay.
And it's a never-ending process.
Wow.
It is a vicious cycle, if you want to know that. It's like that. If you have to bring the work home and read the fast at night for tomorrow. And meantime, you have to arrange and compose your judgments as well.
So I want to read out a little thing that came across when I was doing research into this.
Right.
So Emeritus Professor Dr. Shad Salim Faruqi, he wrote this about you last year.
Right.
As she grew into her job, she replaced the cold neutrality of an impartial judge with some admirable judicial activism.
Yes, yes, yes.
Faced with glaringly unjust rules and practices in some situations, she refused to act impotent and sterile. Instead, she went about the task of interpreting the enacted law creatively and prismatically in order to secure morally just results.
Right.
If the majority decision had much law but little justice, she broke ranks. And I thought that was beautifully written, but also such a compliment to you.
Thank you, yes.
I really want to know what he, I mean,
What he
Prof.
means by
Shad
it?
is not one to take words lightly, but to you, I want to ask you about judicial activism and what it means to you.
Well, all right. You see, for the longest time, judges are by and large conservative people. We are very conservative. We go by precedents. That's the law, and we want certainty in the law. You know, it has to be clear, concise, and certain.
Right.
Yeah, but along the way, then we may come across situations where you know that there is some injustice there, something's not right here. Then you might want to have a different view altogether. You know, so I won't say you want to break ranks, not so much that, but as much as your sense of justice will come to the fore, and you will ask yourself whether or not you might want to do it differently.
Wow. Okay.
You know, and then you have to interpret the law, because Parliament makes law, but judges interpret them. But we don't want to be slavishly interpreting it, slavishly without regard to how you want to interpret it. There's many ways of skinning a cat, kind of thing, situation. So it's the same way for us. That, but then, like I said, judges are by and large conservative.
Right.
But sometimes you have to be a bit more bold and courageous, and breaking through that and see how you can interpret the best way you can, so that you can serve justice.
We're going to come back and continue our conversation with Tan Sri Zainun Ali after this. Stay with us. Hi, welcome back to The Future's Female. I'm Melisa Idris. With me is Tan Sri Zainun Ali, who retired as a federal court judge last year. She's also currently the chairman of Malaysia Airports and also a director with PNB. So just before the break, we were talking about judicial activism. Now, and you talked about, it's not always easy to break ranks, but sometimes you need to, especially when you're interpreting the law. I want to ask you about that, about how judges go about balancing the letter of the law with the spirit of the law, because it's a very delicate balance. Sometimes.
It is a delicate balance, indeed. Like the letter of the law would mean that what you see, the law is, what the Parliament enacts. This is the law and that's it. But the spirit of the law would mean the essence of the law, the rule of law, right? Then you have to see what is the hidden message there, that you can't be literal. Right. You have to know what lies behind, what's the message that the Parliament tries to say here.
Okay. Is it often difficult, or I mean, is there sometimes a disconnect between the spirit and the letter? I mean, is it often difficult to read between the two?
I would say it would be difficult if you're a literalist.
Okay, all right, that's fair.
But we have to be a little more creative in your interpretation.
Right.
And because to me, like I said before, if you feel that there is some injustice there, you are of course mindful of this, of the essence of justice when you apply the law to the facts of the case and so on.
Okay. So talk to me about the your landmark judgments in the case of Indira Gandhi versus the Pengarah Jabatan Agama Islam Perak.
Right.
So that was the federal court unanimously nullifying the unilateral conversion of Indira's children, her 3 children, right? So how does that, so talk to me about, balancing the letter of the law and the spirit of the law in that case.
All right, in that case, actually there was a misconception, I think. A lot of people think that it has a lot to do with Islam or Muslim law, but it's not actually. It is how judges or judiciary looks at the executive power and decision there. It's not so much about Islamic law. I think that is a misconception people make.
Okay, so it's about separation of power.
Yes,
I see.
exactly.
Okay.
Separation of powers, yes.
So what implications did you see come up from that decision?
All right. First of all, and in Indira, I think it's important to note that it is not every Muslim or Islamic aspect that we can't deal with. Because we think once it is Islamic law or Muslim law, then the civil courts should take their hands off.
Right.
That's
the common conception.
Common conception,
right?
but that's wrong because we must not abdicate our duty. It is our duty to adjudicate on any position. But of course, I'm not saying that we must adjudicate also on Sharia law. No, Sharia courts will deal with the family law and personal laws of Muslims. But any other thing which has elements of law, that you have to adjudicate as best you can, because you cannot abdicate your duty and function as a judge.
Do you see any areas of overlap or conflict between the plural legal system of Sharia and civil law?
Well, there might be. There can be conflicts, I suppose, but I think it can be determined at the outset how you want to do this. Like in Indira's case, it was not, in the case of Indira Gandhi, it was the executive action of the registrar of Mu'alafs who did not comply with the condition precedent of the conversion process, and there was non-compliance, and that's why we acted on it and deliberated and decided on it.
So unanimous decision,
Unanimous,
right?
yeah.
And I know you said that the misconception is that it was about religion.
No, yeah.
But that was the way it was framed to people outside of the court. Now I'm wondering, when judges like yourself hear cases that have a huge religious aspect, Tan Sri, does being a Muslim impact you in any way? In that decision?
It does, in the sense that I'm very proud to be Muslim, and I think our religion teaches us how to have a sense of justice, isn't it? It is Islamic too. Sense of fairness and justice is all Islamic, and I think we should not be afraid to apply what we know as Muslim to the law as well. I don't. It impacts in that way. Yes, it impacts in me. I have to be conscious of the fact that I'm Muslim and I'm doing this case, but it is very much a Muslim ideal also.
And I think very much as well, like in Islam, it's about the spirit of Islam as opposed to just the letter of the Sharia, right? Yes.
Yeah, as you say, compassion and mercy.
Yeah.
Is all Islamic too. And in the case of Indira Gandhi, we decided unanimously that the child's interest is paramount, and before he can be converted, he must have the consent. He or she must have the consent of both parents. So yeah.
I also want, I guess, now that you are retired, I mean, as a judge, surely you can appreciate that it's important to come to a just decision in every case, but it's also critical that the process be transparent, right? So that the public is confident that the decision is the correct one. So, you know, you not only have to do the right thing, but you also have to be seen to be doing the right thing. Now that you're on the outside, someone on the outside looking into the judiciary, are you sympathetic to this view, or do you think it is a somewhat simplistic conclusion that the public has come to?
I don't quite understand.
That you know, that Malaysia, I guess, in Malaysia, that justice is not seen to be done.
Oh, I don't know why people have this misconception.
You don't.
No, I don't believe that. I think, well, perhaps we as a judiciary may not be forthcoming in our how we project ourselves. And sometimes I think in the press or in the media, we meaning the judiciary, have been unfairly treated. I believe that. Okay. And because judges are, by and large, I said, conservative, and we are not supposed to speak. You know, there's a Khmer rule that says that we can't. We only speak through our judgments, not through public forum. So then we are silenced.
Unfairly treated in what way?
I would say because when people, the public or anyone were to bash us, we can't say anything.
You can't come back and
we can't
respond.
Bash them back, can we? No, we can't. So much as we want to, actually, but we can't because we are restrained by our code of ethics, and we have to be circumspect in what we do and say. So we can only speak through our judgments.
Are you happy with the reforms that are currently taking place in the judiciary?
Yes, it's wonderful. It's laudable, I think, because I think it's moving in the right direction. And there's so many things that are going.
What about the speed of the reforms? Is it going fast enough for you?
Maybe not. Maybe not fast enough. But to be fair to the former Chief Justice, he had only about 9 months. So hopefully, but with the new one, she had about 6 years. I'm sure she will do a great job.
So you're optimistic.
Very.
Okay. All right. We're going to come back, continue this conversation. Stay with us right here on The Future is Female. Thanks for staying with us on The Future is Female. Now, Tan Sri Zainun, women have been taking more key positions in Malaysia Baru, all based on merit and ability. You yourself recently appointed as chairman of Malaysian Airports, also director of PNB. How do you view these recent developments?
Okay. I think it's a great phenomenon. It's phenomenal, actually. And I think it's wonderful that the government recognizes us at last. So you remind me of that song, At Last. Or is that there's a song called At Last or something like by Etta James? Weddings, we have this kind of song. And well, for the longest time, we have been holding the fort, haven't we? And
to be recognized.
But it takes something else for the government to now appoint women who are appointed based on merit. Actually, I'm not a feminist, not by any chance, but I do believe that you should recognize competence when you see one, and if it comes in the shape of a woman, so be it. Right?
But the more important question is, are women leading in the areas where Malaysia needs the most change? I'm very encouraged to see that there's a woman Chief Justice. That's wonderful. And you know, we've got ministers and deputy ministers, but are they leading the ministries that will bring about change in Malaysia? Do you see that women are leading in the areas where we need the most change?
Okay. Well, that question is a bit relative, I think. So what the question would be, what change do we want to see?
And to you, which areas will be, you know, most important for change?
So to me, right now, maybe we are, I'm conscious of the fact that we need to have capital resources change in economic change and social changes, but what's critical for Malaysia now is to have a mindset change.
A mindset change.
In the sense that, I don't know, lately it's been, I feel very, how do I say, sad that there has been a regression more than a progression towards how we look at things.
Right.
You know,
We're not moving forward.
No, not really. We are going back into, we are not conscious anymore of the fact that we are multiracial. That's what I'm doing.
Okay.
I know where I'm coming from, that we are multiracial, so we have to celebrate our diversity rather than oppose it in many ways. So therefore, to me, it doesn't really matter who is in charge as long as you do change them. But if it's a woman, I know I'm sure we do a great job if we are in charge of doing these things.
Right.
So,
okay, well, women in the boardroom, I mean, now that you are, you know, essentially at the apex of Malaysian airports now, what do you think women bring to the table? What, with all the talk about increasing women participation in, especially in the corporate sector?
all right. First of all, I don't know whether you've seen our board, the board of Malaysia Airports. He has the highest number of women.
Fantastic.
Yes.
That is wonderful.
I know.
Has that always been the case, or is that since you came on board?
I don't know whether it's, like I said, by design, I'm there and therefore they do it. But it's what happened, I think. It's what happened that we have a lot of women on board. And it's great, really, because we have a sisterhood of women there. It's grew.
Good. Break the glass ceiling.
And yes, and all of them are very competent people. So that's a great help. So if you ask me why or how we can contribute to the airports, I think, well, I can say that because women are by nature nurturing, and we have a sense of egalitarianism, if you get what I mean.
Yep.
So then we are able to have a fantastic team work.
So no more of that all boys club mentality.
No, not really.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, egalitarian. I see that.
It is. Yeah.
What do you think, Tan Sri, about quotas for women? So we talk. You know, there's a lot of talk about having women in more women in boardrooms. You know, more women in cabinet. Do you think quotas are the way to go?
Well, in a way, it's a good starting point, maybe, to have quotas. But once we achieve that, then we shouldn't bother about all this. We should go on more merit and competence. But I'm not too sure whether that's a good idea to have quotas. But maybe, like I said, it's a good start.
Right. So would you, with your appointment, you know, did you feel that did you feel like a sense of reluctance to join this? Because often women hold ourselves back because we have this imposter syndrome. You know, we think that we never want to take the chance and move on to different things. Many women don't put their hands up and say, you know, choose me. I'm qualified and competent for the job. But what was your experience like in the judiciary now in the corporate sector?
I thought I was the wrong fit for this job, honestly, because it's a completely different discipline now. And well, the learning curve is steep, but I'm getting there, I hope. And because I think at the end of the day, we always want to do it the best we can. You want to be perfect. Well, I want to be perfect. I can't be perfect, but I want to try to be one. So in that sense, yes, it is good that I'm here because it's something to look at. I mean, and then I look at the judiciary and the corporate sector. I look at with different eyes now. You know?
Well, you know, one of the things that the corporate sector could learn from the judiciary is that element of good governance within themselves, which I think could go a long way, especially with public companies such as MHB. So perhaps that's what you bring to the table here as well.
I hope so too. I hope so. I really hope so. Yeah.
In the time that we have left, Tan Sri, I'd really like to get your thoughts on what you hope to see for the judiciary. I mean, with all the 22 years of experience on the bench, now in the last 1 year, I'm not sure what changes you've seen, but what are your hopes for the reforms of the judiciary?
All right. They're doing pretty good, actually, and it's a matter of tweaking and fine-tuning certain things. And with the Chief Justice, who is competent, and she has integrity, so it's a good start. And for the, I think the longest time, I've always thought that the best way to start any organization, especially like an institution like the judiciary, it is best that we go to the people who matter most there, and those are the judges themselves. So what I'm saying that when you choose the judges, make sure that they are the best that you can get from the system. You know, so that's why it is important that the JAC, that's the Judicial Performance Commission, do their job properly, because once judges are appointed, they are there for a long time. So it's critical and crucial that they are here and doing the job that they are supposed to do.
Okay.
To dispense justice fairly without fear or favor.
So, right at the very start,
Yes.
making sure that.
I think that's important.
Are judges able to do their duties
yes.
without fear or favor?
Absolutely. I have no fear of that. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for talking with me today. It's been
Thank
such a
you.
pleasure. And I want to say Selamat Hari Raya
Oh,
to you.
thank you very much,
As
Melisa.
I invited.
Sama-sama.
You'll be watching The Future is Female. I'm Melisa Idris, and I will be back with you same time next week. I'll see you then.